All right, so this is the third time taking this because I keep going off. So I'm going to slow the fuck down for you guys. It has been 2 months since my last video. I moved, kinda. This is my office for now. I'm still not officially moved in. Go contractors. And then I had a very major business matter to take care of, which is going to be resolved here shortly. So I'm back. I've learned so much over the past 3 to 4 months. It is ridiculous. The past 4 weeks specifically has been an utter revelation on everything I've known about myself and PE. So we're going to start from the very beginning in a very brief overview, because I have literally a dozen videos to make from just this stuff alone. So if you want to stay in the loop, like and subscribe. This will be a written format on the Peak Male Physique blog and r/gettingbigger. So check it out there if you don't want to listen to me babble. And then I have books, penis pumps, and supplements. Books and penis pumps are at Peak Male Physique. Supplements are at leviathanwellness.com. If you want to support the channel, check it out. But anyway, I have been dieting for most of the year. I went from, 232 in November down to 193 in July with a bit of a break in between for personal reasons. But, that's almost 40 pounds of tissue loss. I'm saying tissue because I definitely lost fat and muscle at the same time. But I've done it. I got below 200. What I'm looking at is how much diet actually impacts erection quality. So we're going to start from the basics. There are 3 macronutrients, right? You got protein, you got fats, and you got carbohydrates. Protein is the building blocks for muscles and all the little tissues in your body. Fats is just long-term energy storage. And then carbohydrates is short-term energy storage, or short-term use energy, which can be turned into fats. Whole nother rabbit hole we can go down there. But I'm laying this out so you guys can understand the entire idea here. Carbohydrates pull in water. So for every 1 gram of glycogen, which is a stored carbohydrate chain, that's going to be 3 to 4 grams of water. Typically, some people will have even more depending on how densely saturated their body is with glycogen. But simply put, is since it's pulling in water to your body, all your tissues will be saturated with water. It's very noticeable in muscles, and that's what gives the conventional pump and pop for muscles. And then it's in all soft tissues as well. So your endothelial tissue will have hydration. Your collagen will be hydrated by carbohydrates and glycogen. It's just not going to be as nearly as excessive as it would be in muscle tissue. However, that also means that all these chemical reactions, specifically let's talk about blood flow, need carbohydrates to operate efficiently. So if you are carb deprived, you're not going to have the best erection response, simply because your body then has to use whatever it can to get vasodilation. So if you can't use your number one source of energy, you're going to be using fat. And fat is not nearly as efficient of ATP turnover, what your body does to make energy. And on top of that, since the tissue has literally less hydration, it won't stretch as much, making it even harder to be your max size. So carbohydrates in general will make your erection bigger. That is the headline story right there. Problem is finding out how much carbohydrate you need is a little bit difficult. And this is where I learned so much about myself that it made me question literally everything else. So for a normal guy my size, 600 grams of carbohydrates over a week would have them top off. Top off means your tissue's fully saturated and the water will come in. That would mean typically for a guy my size, at the beginning of this, 6'1", 193. Actually a little less than 6 foot. That's another story. But 6 foot, 193. Basically I should have been about 205 to 210 with water. The problem is I have been trying to carb load for the past 3 weeks at this point, and I am still not even close to saturation. And this is going to be another video explaining what saturation looks like and everything like that. But I have literally increased my carbohydrates from 600, 700, 800, 900 up to 1,000. And finally at 1,000, I'm starting to see the needle move. So what that really means is that my body needs 1,000 grams of carbohydrates to sufficiently sustain itself. That is ridiculous on its own. On top of that, me eating 600 grams of carbohydrates was equating to roughly 4,000 to 4,400 calories a day. Yes, that is an obscene amount of calories. We'll get to it. I was actually losing weight though while eating that much because I was still keeping my fat super low. So my body is just really primed for carbohydrates. And again, we'll talk about this on later. But I'm sorry, just speaking it out loud is just giving me the absurdity. But point being is, with the carbohydrates, me seeing that I needed an obscene amount made me question a lot of things. Because like no reasonable person is going to be trying to cram 1,000 grams of carbohydrates into them without like knowledge prior. So if I never got enough carbohydrates, what does that mean for the rest of my life? So I started thinking back. If carbohydrates are responsible for all kinds of protein transcription, energy use, hormone production, that would mean that my hormones have been limited. And I had low testosterone symptoms as early as 20, which also means my puberty probably also was stunted from lack of carbohydrates. Now, this is where it starts to get crazy, and I just want to let you guys know that I don't think too highly of myself, period. Right now, I am separating myself as the person in my brain and my body, just because like the obscenity of it would probably make me an egotistical ass. So bear with me. But at 9 years old, I was 119 pounds. That is massive, okay? Now, the problem is this was during the height of the childhood obesity pandemic, if you want to call it that, epidemic, I don't know. But no one really thought much of it because there's a lot of fat 9-year-olds at that time. The thing is I wasn't particularly fat. Like I had a little bit of baby weight, but I didn't have like the pouching, typical childhood obesity. It was like I still had cheekbones, I still had my jawline. I just had a huge rib cage, as I do now, and huge hips, which made the little pouch of fat that I had for growth look bigger. So in all intensive purposes, I was a massive 9-year-old. And on top of that, I had a precocious puberty. Precocious puberty means I started developing sexual traits exceptionally young. I started developing pubic hair as early as 8.5. That is, I don't want to say unheard of, but terrifyingly early. What that means is I have been exposed to androgens as early as 8 and going all the way up through my early 20s. Okay, but the problem is since I was already that big that early, literally eating enough food for an adult, there was no feasible way for me to actually fully develop with my activity level. I was still doing like 10 hours of basketball a week, and it scaled up even more in high school to the point where there was no feasible way I was going to develop with the amount of energy I was burning, plus the amount of energy I needed. So this is a roundabout way of saying that my puberty was stunted / delayed. Now, when we look at what happened at 20 with the low testosterone symptoms, my body finally started to catch up. It wanted to build bone mass and everything like that because I finally had control over my diet. I was not playing basketball anymore. So basically all my food intake went to my body to grow, but I mistook it as fat. So I chronically dieted, which actually caused my low testosterone. So that low testosterone caused me to delay my puberty again. And this probably went on for another 2 years. And I started taking testosterone at about, I would say 23, 24. And my body just exploded. I thought it was like, testosterone side effects, like my hairline went up a little bit, my beard got thicker, and my body hair got thicker. But really, that was me finishing puberty. Well, or so I thought. I am still pubescent, okay? I'll try to get a picture of this because I'm so far away from the camera, but I still have like non-terminal hairs in my beard, which means I am still technically in puberty. I am only a tanner like 4.7 physically, but I am 6'1", 213 pounds at this point. So I'm still a growing boy. And what's the crazier thing is that my genitals did not continue to develop because when you put testosterone in, it shuts down the pituitary gland basically, and those hormones that are responsible for genital growth, follicle stimulating hormone in particular, is cut off because of the feedback loop is shut off. So my my already quite large testicles are still quite underdeveloped compared to what they should be. I'm not going to tell you what size I think they are because it is absolutely absurd. When I say a size, I mean adult size. So I wanted to collect as much data as possible for you guys so I can explain to you that I am an outlier when it comes to this stuff. So to me, all this means is like I was supposed to be a massive human and I picked up a few pieces of evidence. So first, I literally measured all my bones. So I measured the length of my radius and all that. I measured, I'm not sure what bone this is called. I measured my clavicle, measured my femur, measured my literal sternum, and then tibia, fibia, to find out when you add all those bones together, it is the equivalent of a 6'5" skeleton. But I'm only 6'1". So I have that much spinal compression to get through. And like, again, that is crazy on its own, but like the math checks out. I have a big 6'5" skeleton in a 6'1" compressed height, to the point where I actually have mild scoliosis, which is actually kind of workable. It's just fascia. So shifting your soft tissues enough so your back will straighten out. And since I'm lacking carbohydrates, I don't have any fluid in between my bones. So like the padding between them is actually smaller. So like it's reasonable to assume that I could get to 6'5" in like 12 to 18 months of mobility training, because that's all it really is fixing the space between your joints. Because all the bones are all that big, but the space between the joints are causing them to shift closer together, which isn't really typical. But because my bones are that big, it makes much more sense on how many calories I actually need. So if we look at a typical 6'1" guy with a decent bit of muscle mass, needs about 500 to 600 grams of carbohydrates a day to be fully saturated. A guy that is 6'5" and still in puberty is going to need a lot more carbohydrates. And I'm eating upwards of 1,000 carbohydrates per day, 6,000 calories. I haven't gained any fat yet. I am using calipers to actually track my fat. And by the way, you won't actually believe what my body fat percentage is. I am not going to show you guys until I saturate, because it's going to make my muscles actually look as big as they're supposed to be. But point being, this has changed everything for me. It's not that I was just a big guy. I'm supposed to be a huge guy. As I say that, my 6'5" brother just walked past the door. So it is a family thing. It's just because I was such an active kid, I never had the chance to fully develop, and my body did that in college. Basically, I started doing mobility training, let's say 10 to 15 minutes a day, and then on some other days, like my rest days at the gym, I'll be doing 20 to 30 minutes of it. I went from 5'11" and 5/8 to 6'2" barefoot in about 2 weeks. So like my body has an acceptable amount of room to stretch. You will not have this unless you are literally compressed like I am, like a fucking slinky. But then the other thing I was looking at is the carbohydrate and water mass gain. I have gained 22 pounds. I went from 193 to 215. My muscles are a lot fuller, but they do not have like the typical bodybuilding pop that you would get because there's not enough water. And the way I know this is like when you squeeze your muscles and they're filled with water, they don't really like compress. They fight back a bit. Mine are still like loose, uninflated beach balls. So when I eventually saturate, my muscles are going to be much bigger, and that's what gives you like the actual bodybuilder look. And again, this is a whole nother video series just going about into how much carbohydrates impact everything from how you look and how you feel. But I can't go into it because I'm already 15 minutes into this video and it was supposed to be 10 minutes. But the implications for penis size is that I'm just supposed to be horse hung. And that's why I was able to put on 3 inches in length through PE, is because really my penis was supposed to be exceptionally large to begin with. And the reason why I know that is because when I was very young, my penis was already the size of an adult male's. So if we're going to just surmise that my, Tanner 3 penis size was already average adult size, by the time I finish puberty, it is supposed to be double the average adult size. And I'm saying that so I don't set off any YouTube filters, but you get the picture, is that I was supposed to be big, So that then brings me to the title of this video series, Fully Expressed Phenotype Theory. Basically, PE gains don't start until you've actually finished puberty and reached your natural adult size. I believe, just because how easy it is to throw off puberty, a lot of guys could actually benefit from taking time to optimize diet and exercise to ensure that they finish developing. Because like if you're, say, it depends when your puberty was supposed to end, but like if you're within 5 to 7 years of when your puberty was supposed to end, you'll actually catch up. Like, it's a pretty known thing, particularly in women, that let's say they have something called Hashimoto's disease. That's a disease of the thyroid, and then their puberty is delayed. They'll finish up just a bit later than everyone else. You see it a lot with malnutrition people as well. Malnutrition victims. Yeah, they'll just say that. Malnutrition victims, they'll also stunt their puberty, and then they actually have food supply. They'll finish developing, maybe not to their full adult size, because they're not fully optimizing. And then there are hormone interventions you can do, but I'm going to save that until after I play around with that a little bit more. Then we'll talk about it then. But point being, guys, is this changes so much, and then I've learned so many stupid little things along the way. Like, I now have a model that shows the exact amount that people can expect to gain based off of their body size and lean body mass. That's a whole nother conversation. I've got a video showing this is how we can get the exact right pumping pressure every single time. Like, the floodgates are open for me, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. But I have so much to go through that I wanted to get this out of the way first. So let me know in the comments what you think. Give this video a like, and again, subscribe if you want to stay in the loop, because I think I'm onto something. Okay, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I've been going back and forth for 3 weeks with ChatGTP, just running through the scenario. Yes, I use an AI. Oh God, but it was the only way I was actually going to be able to get unbiased research assistance, is a good way to put it, because I just give it the data. It looks at it as a research analyst would. That's what I told it to do, and then it finds like data everywhere else on how this pieces together. I would never have figured out the carb thing if it wasn't for them, and I wouldn't have then figured out how tall I was supposed to be from that. So anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.